Hi, this is Scott here once again with Abundance Coaching TV, and welcome to the show today. In today's Abundance Coaching TV episode, we have a special guest. He's one of my clients and an amazing man. His name is James Bykowie. Thanks for coming here to the show here today, James.
Certainly, my pleasure.
Woohoo!
Honored to be on your show.
Yeah, you bet, buddy. And you know, it's really, this show is all about helping people to live with more passion, have more abundance in their life. And we often bring guests on the show to talk about their journey and talk about their story. And I asked James just about a week ago if he'd be willing to come out, just because I feel that he has an incredible story, and it's really a story of a hero on a journey. And along the way, there were some pitfalls, and it's not been, the easiest climb at different points. But certainly there's some major milestones that have been hit and transformation that's been made in the last little while, hasn't there, James?
Yeah, for sure. When I look back over the last couple of years, 2 years that we've been in contact, that it's been quite a journey. And you see, I'm smiling today, so things are good.
That's right, man. Yeah. Hey, so let's go back to the day, right? So, just a little bit of a backstory. James and I are friends from way back when I used to live in Saskatoon. We used to go to a Toastmasters club, right? And we had an affinity because we were both part of this club. It was a great, I would call it a higher end club where there's a lot of business people, executives, realtors, business owners, things like that. And we were part of this club, and we were really pushing each other, for those top spots to speak at speaking competitions and things like that, weren't we, James?
Oh yeah, no, you gave me some great advice on some of my competition entries.
That's right. Yeah, and you got really far in a couple of your speeches as well, didn't you?
I did. A couple of them I took all the way to division. I actually won the division contest one season, so that was pretty good.
Yeah, sure proud of you on that one.
Leaderboard.
We both have our name on the leaderboard there in Saskatoon, don't we? So there's a bit of a backstory, but then, I moved to Sydney, and you're back in Saskatoon, and I actually just reached out. We kept on having the conversation, didn't we, about, me mentoring you a little bit with some of your speeches. I reached out one day, and when we met to talk about your speech, you had some other stuff that you wanted to share with me that was way more important, and we had a chat about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's twists in life that you can't foresee, and I think what I had brought up to you at that conversation was that after an 18-year marriage, it was disintegrating, and I didn't see it coming and didn't realize what was happening around me. I just felt terribly confused, and as it started to take shape and I realized just what was happening, of course I felt like my life was falling apart. My marriage was a huge pillar of stability in my life, and when that wasn't strong anymore, I kind of freaked out. I didn't expect such a change in course halfway through my life. I was 44 at that time, and I thought I had the stable suburban life, right? I was a suburban father of two with a SUV and a house in the burbs and a dog, and that picture of suburban success. Yeah. But all was not well, and of course I had to try and land on my feet, and it was tough. I mean, I know that there was counseling that was provided for me through work, and in the most desperate moments, I made use of that as well. And these are just people to reach out to and be able to tell my story. And we connected early on, and I wanted your help in landing on my feet and just trying to be awesome every day. And the little steps, where you sort of have to try to reclaim your own identity as one whole person instead of one half of a couple, which I had been for so many years previous. It really feels like you're ripped apart. And other people that I had talked to said, I don't think it's going to make sense at this moment because you're not ready to hear this, but you will be okay. I thought, well, that doesn't help me very much at this moment. Yeah. Scott, you took me, through these initial steps of thinking about who I am and what's important and reclaiming myself. And boy, have we ever built on that since. I spent some time just trying to find myself and reaffirm my preferences and my hobbies and my activities and things that I like to do that I didn't have to. It wasn't part of a compromise anymore. It wasn't part of a relationship anymore. It was just me.
That's interesting, isn't it? Can we hang on that? There's a. Remember, we had that chat about how you even felt like you needed to reconnect with other guys because your whole makeup was, it's like you and your spouse.
Yeah, she was my best friend, my closest friend, and a lot of, I noticed that in a lot of couples, right? I mean, you're closest to your spouse and you sort of lose connection with just going out for beers with the guys or going out to play pool or any of those, lighthearted stuff, just going to hang out. I hadn't done that. And so I felt I really needed to rebuild myself. I mean, at the time that my ex and I split, I didn't even have a preference for music anymore. And that was another thing that I had noticed. It felt like I didn't have a personality of my own. And so this, taking time to connect with guys. And it turns out, as soon as I started saying the word separated, I hear it from a lot of other people. And it turns out there's a whole bunch of separations that are all happening sort of midlife. That's a whole other discussion.
It is, yeah. It wasn't all exactly down this path, right? It's like we didn't, go down. It's like next week we're gonna have these things done, right? There were a couple times where it was very just,
You let me sort of get off my chest what I needed to at the start of a phone call. And, that would often influence sort of what our priority was for the day. If there was something that I was considering or something that was eating away at me, you would sort of let me explore that and bounce some questions off me and get me thinking and just talk it out, right? That's the power of talk. And you're sending me documents over Skype and exercises and things to work through and further stuff to follow up on. It was great. So whatever I needed to say, or you were a great sounding board. You'd ask me some incisive questions and some provoking questions just to get to the core of what I was thinking. It was good. We never knew really where the conversation was going to go from one call to the next, but it was what was needed.
Yeah. And that's also, for somebody that might be watching this show, you might feel that you're actually more of a verbal processor. And a lot of the percentage of people out there actually get therapy while talking, especially if you're going through grief or a hard time. But finding the trusted person to talk with will be one of the keys for you. All right. Yeah, it's I did find that, and to be able to hold that, just like, hey man, we're guys, right? We can just hold the space. We can cry, man, and we can talk about it. What's really important. And sometimes guys need to hear that, don't we?
It was required. Whatever's needed. The conversations flowed pretty well, but there was some tough stuff we had to get through. When I explained to you something that's been eating me up and disturbing me and stuff, it's hard to get it out. But you're very respectful and you're very trustworthy, and I so much appreciate that. That space to be able to come out and say the stuff I needed to say, and it helps me understand where I'm at, that much better. Good.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Okay, so maybe there's a guy that's out there that's watching this show right now, right? And he's just been rocked, and working through it. Doesn't matter necessarily why he's rocked. Could be relationships or something else, but he's working through some stuff, right? And he's not used to opening up and getting to the true self and actually opening up. What would you maybe say to that guy as to what he could do or what he could choose to do?
I think I'd probably try to get them to find some small, simple thing that they can do every day just to lighten the days. Because there's, when something big like that happens and you get dumped, for example, or some major upset in your life, you have to try to find a way to make the days a little bit lighter, because there's nothing but dark, right? It's this cold ache that's through everything.
Like, there's part of your journey, right, where you actually rekindled some relationships, especially like with your brothers.
Yeah.
You ended up going to church with one brother, another one, you didn't hang out with him very often, and all of a sudden you're like hanging out with him more often.
Well, and it's good to reconnect. I find out that we don't really have any good reason not to be in contact with each other. There's no big family feud or anything going on. We just got busy lives, and we find ourselves just missing each other for months on end. Right? No excuse, right? We live in the same city, but it's as simple as phoning them up, saying, "Hey, let's go for lunch, or let's go for a drink, or I'm going to bring over a pot of something for supper, and we'll do our potluck or something." It's deceptively easy.
Yeah.
Right? People sort of ascribe a whole lot more effort to it, but it's a phone call away. That's it.
So one of the other things that I promised the viewers that we'd get into is, what process did James go through that really got him just to that place of feeling whole and content and healthy, and really back to his best self, back to who he is. Like, you can tell right now, James is talking about his story, but he's a happy guy. and it has been a journey, and we're not discounting any of that, because you might be going through, as a viewer, you might be going through a journey right now with your life, we just want to, at this time, maybe take a time just to recognize that, and have some empathy and compassion towards what you might be going through, because life is a journey, but you're not meant to go through this journey alone. And
it's not going to happen all at once either, right?
Yeah.
I didn't expect things to just pop back into place and be all good again. It was a process I had to go through, and the cold ache of the new reality is what I used to call it, right? It was like that, it's like when you're cold and stiff at the same time, and it's just, that kind of thing. I had to sort of face that. I drew strength from the things that didn't change in my life as well, right? My kids are still around. I have them 50% of the time, and I'm still in the same house that I was in before. I still have the same job that I had before. I'll have the same friends, which is good.
Yeah.
All of the things that are familiar, right? I can embrace those, and then spend my last little bit of energy trying to rediscover the things that I have lost. So there's a couple of things to think about: what's familiar, and then what needs to become familiar.
Wow, man, you should write a book on all this, buddy. Might be, yeah, you lived it, man. That's great. Woohoo. So we talked about your core values, right? So sort of, a month or two after, we really journeyed through like big stuff. We got to this place of saying, okay, we're ready for some, what is James all about stuff. And you never ever gone through that. And you had some really neat insights that you felt happen with, discovering your core values of. And at the end, we ended up with health, honesty, happiness, energy, enthusiasm, skillfulness, eagerness as your top values. And then family comes in there too, with love, intimacy, playfulness, and respect as well for like your relationship values. But tell me about your journey, with discovering your top core values.
Yeah, I've always been envious of those people that say, I know myself, and I may not be a very sophisticated person, but I know myself. And I thought, how do you do that? I find I don't know why I always second guess myself. I'm not able to describe how I am very well to people, and I don't give myself credit for the things that I'm good at or the things that I'm giving at. So this core values exercise that you presented me was an excellent exercise for me to go through. It asks a whole ton of questions, and it's sort of a this or that situation. Would you rather this or would you rather that? In all sorts of different situations, to try to find out, of all these different values, which are the ones that you value the most. And it distills it down into your 7 core values. And so that was the list, right? Health, honesty, happiness, skillfulness, I think, was an interesting one that sort of stands out, right? I appreciate a technical mastery of stuff. And I don't claim to be a master at very much, but I sure appreciate the process of learning and practicing and getting better at things. So that's among the list. So that exercise was great. It presented me with a list of words that I helped create. Well, in fact, I created it, right? I went through and answered all those questions, and the program came back saying, well, according to the answers you gave, this is what you most value. And it was great to see that presented to me, because for the first time, it presented me to me, right? And I had nobody else to impose that on. That was my own honest answers, as honest as I could make them, and so it presented that to me, and it was a source of pride. It was really exciting to see things like health and honesty and happiness go high on my list. And I remember, discussing the results with you, and that there's sort of 4 broad categories that they fall into, and there's different colors that were associated.
Yes, yeah.
Right, and so there's these honorable values, health and honesty, and see, I should know also.
Yeah, and happiness and energy and enthusiasm and skillfulness and eagerness. Yeah.
It was the interpersonal and the romantic and the intimate and the relationship ones that were all coded sort of red or pink.
Yeah.
And I noticed that my array of colors across the 7 values was very blue and very green, and they were very. I think the word I used was staid. They were very staid values, right? Very. Very solid and honorable, but not all that glamorous. And I'm hardly, at the time, I was hardly in a place to express romance and intimacy and relationships and stuff, because I just came out of one. And we recognize that don't force that, and rejoice in the ones that you've got. Those were 7 great values, and I continue to feel it. I resonate with those 7 words. Those are great.
Yeah.
So it was a fantastic exercise. It sort of revealed me to me.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it. And sometime in the near future, because of some new enlightened paths that you've going on, we're going to have to get you to do a new core values game to actually see what shifted. Yeah. Because with values, right, things shift, but usually what we find is that the top values remain the same,
Yeah.
Or they shift slightly. It's hard to move one from, in your top to, off the list.
Yeah. And I mean, for as long ago as we did that, I still resonate with those 7 words. They're great words, and I respect those words, and I aspire to maintain that. And it feels good to embrace those and to do specific actions and specific undertakings and stuff that are in line with those values.
I haven't told you this, but here's an example of how core values can shift a little bit, but the top ones remain the same, right? So I did my core values game the last time actually about 2 years ago, and then another time I did about a month and a half ago. All right, so here's the interesting thing. So I put it up. I might be able to actually show the camera what we see over here. I don't know if we can see that on the camera. I have 2 different cameras here. So I have my wife's and mine on this list over here, right? So I'll just read them. So what was my 7 top core values were spirituality, family, both were basically 1 and 2. Wisdom, financial independence, leadership, integrity, encouragement. All right, those are my top values. And that actually was the same for 2 times doing the values game. So that I found interesting, right? So that actually didn't change. Then I waited for a bit, and then I did it again, as I mentioned, about a month and a half ago. And what I found interesting is on the final phase where the helicopter comes and you're choosing back and forth, right? And all of a sudden you're just like, it's like the ultimate matchup. You're like, what the heck? Oh yeah, that's gonna win. That's gonna be.
The questions get tougher at the end.
I know. And for me, what happened that I found really fascinating was that Impact kept on coming in and in and in. So much so, it's like Impact came up with an integrity, and I'm like, yeah, it wins this time. And it doesn't mean for me integrity too, but it doesn't mean for me that, I meant to say encouragement, that encouragement isn't high or it's actually come down. It's just the impact for me is resonated more and more and more. And there's different reasons for that, like my aunt has died, different things that have happened where you're starting to think maybe more about like, what's my next part of my journey? How am I impacting people? And what falls underneath impact, if you had like an umbrella, what's underneath that? And what I found also fascinating, James, is that love beat out encouragement this time too. So encouragement's still high up there for me, but it's just like I feel so aligned with these slight shifts. But now that you have these shifts, it's like, okay, this new word of impact being in my top 7 and like love even coming up there. Love's now taken over the 8th spot, for me. And it's just really fascinating, I find, because now we can start taking a look at, as you mentioned, how we can really live with our values. And that's the people that know themselves, is that they're living with values.
Yeah, and that's what I've found, since taking it, right? Everything I do now can sort of be mapped against those, and it feels great when they do line up. And it sort of doesn't feel right when they don't line up, right? Like, it's not like you have to do sort of an academic exercise of trying to figure out, this new group that I'm hanging out with, or this plan I have for the weekend, does this line up with my core values? It tends to just feel right, or it doesn't feel. But at least now I have 7 words to describe why it feels right, because that's me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Hey, so we did some other we did so many cool things. We figured out what your life languages were. There was a couple times where you're like, man, Scott, I gotta figure this out, because like I'm having these relationships like in my workplace, and like would really help me to find out more about like my colleagues and my workmates, and certainly your son as well, right? So we did the life language profile, and you came out. And for the people actually that haven't watched this, that are watching these TV episodes, maybe I should let you know what that is. Life languages is a communication assessment that helps you identify the 7 styles that you actually have. Now, unlike other profiles like a DISC or a Myers-Briggs, which kind of pit you in a corner or a pillar or a quadrant, this actually is free, because it shows you that you're all 7. And just different fluencies of each 7. And then it also has some really neat mapping tools on how to identify with what the language is, what they need, what their passions are, even their character strengths, even what their distress flares are. So that's really fascinating stuff, hey? So yeah, we talked about all of this. And so you came out with it being a top responder and then influencer doer. Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I mentioned, responder is what I identify as most. So I really appreciate opportunities to enable other people, and I find that in my work, I'm helping fix customer problems. If I go to visit a customer site and I'm working at their computer system with them, I find myself doing this informal training with them, just to help spread knowledge around. And ultimately, I think the reward for me is seeing the smile on their face. That spark of understanding.
So you've had some transformations, man. So I just have to say, here's a man that's been on a journey. For you watching, if you want to go on a journey, right? You maybe don't want the start of it, but sometimes life is not. Yeah, it's just like it holds all of these different things that can happen, right? And you might find that you're in the midst of some really hard times. And if you want to get through that journey and come out on the other side knowing yourself, feeling like you love yourself, that you know your core, happy and healthy with your family, with your kids, there's some things that I have to say, James, that you've done that I'm so proud of you with, because you took it seriously, you took you seriously, you loved yourself enough to say, yes, I'm gonna make a change, I'm making the call, I'm gonna do it. You showed up for the calls regularly, like, you're just like, I'm in. you know, just like I'm working on me, you know, and I'm proud of you, buddy. I really am, you know.
It's been pretty rewarding.
Yeah, yeah. And now you're in a new relationship, and you're happy with that, so that's pretty cool.
It continues to twist and turn. I could not have predicted. Not just that I would, you know, meet somebody lovely, but that it would be so differently fulfilling.
Yeah.
It's very exciting, and you know, I care about her, and I care about my kids, and I care about myself, and I've got all these priorities, and you might even be able to see back there on my whiteboard. I've got my list of, you know, important things that I want to hold through. It's sort of a set of principles, not so much core values, but things that I want to remind myself of all the time. And some of them are for her, and some of them are for the kids, and some for me and family, and it just it spirals up.
Yeah.
When I manage to hang on to myself and hang on to my kids and find the good in every day, then things start spiraling up. It seems like good things continue to happen.
That's it, buddy.
Yeah, I'm just rolling with it.
That's it, man. Woo! Well, bro, I'm so proud of you. This is, you know what? There's somebody on this show, right, that's watching this that's gonna be like, yeah, you know what? I want to change. I want to come out on the other side, like James has come out on the other side, where I'm happy and content. I know myself more, and you know, I came through that hard time, you know, with wellness, with wholeness. Yeah. So what final piece of encouragement might you offer to somebody that wants perhaps like a piece of what you have coming out the other side with the transformation, with having had broken through?
One last critical piece of advice. I think I have to go back to the little daily find the awesome in something small and accessible that you can do, because those are like the very first glimmers of lightness in an otherwise dark situation, and that helped motivate you, I think. The walking was great for me. I don't know. I love being outdoors. I never would have called myself an outdoorsy guy, but I'm out there cross country skiing in all the snow that we've got, and I've been downtown skating at that public skating rink, and I like getting out for walks still. My buddy down the street who is in a similar situation, or has been in a similar situation as what I was, he's not so much into walks. So you know, what's he going to do? Well, you know, you have to find some little thing. Hopefully it's something that you connected with in the past, or some simple joy. That's what simple joy. And if you can find that and cultivate that and use that as your time for yourself, your quality time for yourself, that will sort of give you a little foothold of awesome. And then you start just trying to build it into a bigger platform and steps upward.
Wow.
Easy imagery.
A foothold of awesome with steps upwards. Simple joys. You know, that's a great way of putting it, James. It really is. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're watching this, there's such wisdom that James has just showered us here with, and I hope that you feel encouraged and inspired with this story. And if you're going through a hard time, you know, reach out, find somebody that you can trust, a trusted person that you can talk through, that you can, you know, find help with. Find a great coach.
You may really find a lot of back and forth happening.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I came approaching my buddies as like, hey, I'm kind of wrecked right now, and I can we just sit together and have a drink or whatever, and I found us sort of sharing conversations back and forth, and these are guys that are hurting too, and they got stuff they got to get out, and everybody's got stuff they got to get out. So you wind up being somebody else's shoulder to lean on just as much as you're leaning on theirs. It's amazing how people need to connect with each other.
Yeah.
And that's a critical part of it.
That's so true. Yeah. So many times in my life I've had to rely on that, James. You know, just you're going through a shitty spot, you know, in life, you know? It's like there's no other word, sorry about the swear, but you're just going through a spot and you're like, yeah, You know, I remember different times in my life, relationship breakups, different financial breakdowns. You know, I remember buying a house where, you know, it was right before the boom, or right before, sorry, the recession. I bought it kind of in a boom, and then it just plummeted, right? And, you know, just having had that conversation with a good friend, and just, you know, being in that space and, you know, having that chat, right? Sometimes you just need to, and that's awesome. Great point.
Nice. Especially for the guys, because the guys aren't necessarily gonna connect so easily with each other. So if you can, you know, mix it in with an evening of bowling or pool, or whatever, street hockey or whatever you're playing, you know, then it distracts you and gives you something to do while you're actually talking.
Yeah. Guys, that's a great little piece of advice there. If you're Australian, you know, maybe not road hockey, maybe, you know, playing touch footy or something like that, right? But you get the point, I think, right? All right, James. Well, this has been a great show. I truly feel and believe that somebody's going to watch this show, more than one person, but there's going to be people that are watching this show. Maybe you're one of these people, and that's part of why James said, yeah, with a big applaud. Yeah, I will. I'll share my story, and you've been raw and real and vulnerable, and I don't take that lightly, James. But I also know that you've done that because you know that somebody else needs to hear a message, and there's a story in, even if it's a different story of a different kind of hardship, of breaking through hardships, coming out the other side of your hero's journey, your epic journey of life, like you and I always talk about, right? Being the hero in your epic journey of life, knowing that it's an arduous journey, that you sometimes, you know, you need to just you partner with the right people, and know that it's going to be one step at a time, like you said, simple pleasures along the way, and grow and learn and walk through and take those next steps, because you're going to be okay, but also work on yourself on the journey as well as you grow and move forward.
Well, and I don't mean to give the impression that things are completely rosy, right? I'm still living a life complete with stress and good days and bad days, and piles of laundry and mess and how right? I mean, I feel like I've got it together, and I feel like I've got options, I guess, for how I want to proceed forward, and so that's empowering too. So generally, good place, lots of things to look forward to, and lots of things to celebrate in my life, which is good to recognize from the start. Even when there's stuff falling apart around you, some of the things are not falling apart around you. So, you know, hang on to those and cherish those. That'll be part of your support.
Woohoo! Right on, man. Man, this is jam-packed. So there you go. So thank you so much for being on the show, James. This is such a good episode. And, you know, if you're journeying through a hard time, you know, we encourage you, maybe rewatch this episode, learn, grow, find support. You know that you're on a hero's journey. There's other people that are trusted people to bring around you, to come on your corner. If you need a coach, find a great coach. Find me, find somebody that you can know in your personal space, in your community. Find good friends. If you're a guy, man, I hope that message came through, that, you know, we need to talk. And sometimes it could be over a field hockey or a footy game, right? But, you know, bring it up, and you're just as much of a shoulder as they might be to you. So bless you guys, and thank you for watching. This is Abundance Coaching TV. My name is Scott. Until we chat again, live with passion and have abundance in life.